and welcome back to another Trekyards Mission Briefing, a weekly dose of Starship discussion from the big multiverse of Trek. And this week, we're Discovery focused, because guess what? There was cool new stuff in Discovery. Stuart, what we're looking at today, and how excited are you to be looking at ships?
Today we're looking at something very cool, something I noticed right away, and that is the Shuttle, the Discovery Shuttle.
Yes.
And looking forward to getting to the meat of these and seeing what's familiar, what's not, and how it works in the world. So,
and I will say it's pretty great that we got to see basically every view of the shuttle. We can actually analyse it because we actually got all the good views. Okay, so first reaction when you saw her and throughout the episode, what's your take on this new TOS-ish era shuttlecraft for Discovery?
Well, I was impressed with it, especially when you see it later on in the episode, but we'll see that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
From the top, they look a little bit long compared to other shuttles we've seen, but, I mean, it's not much of an issue. It has good styling as far as the back part goes. It's very similar to what we see in Star Trek, like the movies, Star Trek 5. Yep. So it's a nice visual tie, and I also love all the markings on it, the different color patterns. Plus, it's got the familiar banner and Delta on the side there, I guess. I mean, they're familiar for a TNG era, but are they familiar for TOS? Not really. The design looks too... Anyway, what do you think of these things?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to break down of this ship, but I'll do my general reactions first. I was thoroughly impressed and thoroughly confused. It's one of the strange things where, as a shuttle design, I love it. I think it's brilliant. Especially the back view, the amount of lights and active space, and then the front view, the amount of glows, and we'll see those in a minute. There's going to see the top view in this one. But I really liked it. Now, it certainly feels like and this is very strange to hear, it feels like an NX-01 shuttle pod crossed with Star Trek V's shuttle.
Yeah, it's a good way to describe it.
Because it has obviously that angle, that downward pointy angle with the big cockpit, and then the entire back piece of the Star Trek 6 shuttle, and that long. I mean, you're sort of skipping. I mean, it's got the TOS shuttle in terms of it's got the engines, but so is the 6, and it has more in common with certainly has more in common with the 6 and then TNG, because I think in one version of the TNG shuttle. Is it 6 as the ring as engines as well? Is that the 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really the parallel. We're kind of skipping the TOS era in terms of stylistic, and the fact that pennons are off. But in terms of overall design, I really liked it. I really liked the color palette, its appearance. It was interesting the fact that it was both a prison transport shuttle, which you would not assume would be a high-end new. That's just an everyday or even older shuttle, but the Discovery ones are identical, and they're they are the chosen shuttle for the brand new, super secret high-end space science vessel. You'd assume would be really good ones. Now, while they could be personnel transport ones, we see the entire shuttle bay, and there's only space for 3 shuttles. I think these big Delta things can go down. There's a slight slice, but it's weird that there's only one class of shuttle, and it's
that we know of.
Oh no, absolutely.
There's always storage for extra shuttles. So.
But to similar have the 2 shuttles be identical is so is it either a really good shuttle or the old shuttle the only one they could get?
It's the only warp capable shuttle which Discovery might need.
Oh, that's interesting. Ooh. Yeah. That's
another
very
thing
interesting, actually.
Yeah, another thing I want to point out too is the markings on the side. The one that the prison transport is SPT, so I would assume Starfleet Prison Transport. And then number 21, and it's scuffed up. It's the same kind of paint job and stuff as the other one that we see in the bay there.
Yeah.
But of course, because it's brand new, you scroll over to it, and when you zoomed in, and it's nice and clean new paint and Discovery DSC.
Yeah.
So that kind of squashes the whole what's the abbreviation for Discovery debate that everyone's having. It's not called Disco. Anyway, so DSC, it's just cool seeing the same shuttle, but at different stages of its life.
Although, why on earth the red paint?
Because it looks damn cool.
But that's not how you design things, in terms of...
It is sometimes.
Oh, well, okay. So that's our overall thoughts, but like I say, it's very clearly an NX-01 cross with a Star Trek 5. Now, does that fit into the time period? What do we have here that would? So in terms of the chronology, obviously, we have the TOS shuttle. We don't know how old that shuttle is, and it has a similar vibe to the Connie in terms of clean whites, facades, all that stuff. We don't see one in Cage, and this is I guess now 2 years and 6 months after Cage, so we don't know where the TOS shuttle is in terms of that continuity. And we know the shuttle pod from XO1 is 100 years old, so that it wouldn't have any direct references to that per se. So how can we fit this into the chronology, do you think?
Yeah, I would say it's a specialist shuttle, one of the newer design ones, because it's obviously got small warped reactor and warp nacelles. But yeah, I would say it's totally different than the Type F that we see on the TOS Enterprise. Totally different purpose and feel. So yeah, that's a tough one. I'm just assuming because it's a warp capable shuttle, that would be the reason that these that's where they fit in their niche, because not all shuttles are obviously warp capable at this time period.
If we jump to the inside, and we'll go back to the outsides again, but if you go to picture 8 and then picture 9 and then back to 8, just in terms of general, the TOS shuttle is like 10 seats, minimal controls, small back room, not a lot to it, and it is designed for simple sublight travel, or ship to ship, ship to planet. This has a large number of, about the same number of seats, but you've got quite a large space in the middle. Each seat has emergency life support, which is the TOS certainly hasn't got, and it's got a decent chunk of space at the back, and a separate airlock at the back, and a 2-person control at the front with more space in TOS as well. So it's clearly a bigger shuttle. Do you think this is like the runabout of the time?
I mean, possibly. It does have a lot more functionality than a standard shuttle, but I guess, yeah, for the time, it could maybe be considered the runabout's counterpart. What you just said actually got me thinking about how useless the other shuttles are, because they don't have docking rings or anything, so
they have doors.
To dock to another ship without going through its shuttle bay is practically impossible.
Unless they're just obviously designed to do ship to ship and Federation ship to Federation ship, or Federation ship to planet. You don't need a docking ring for those situations if that's what it's designed for specifically. Yeah. Those are really simple. I mean, it obviously compared to this, it feels like a cheap shuttle. It was sort of a cheap shuttle in terms of design, but very clever at its time for budget reasons. But if that's like the moped of the Trek world, this is the camper van with a faster pedometer. Maybe. So what more do you think about it going to warp? Because that was quite a, for the time it was like, ooh.
It didn't really faze me too much, to be honest, because I don't know. See, in the Menagerie, they take Kirk and the one Admiral or Commodore take a shuttle from the Starbase in pursuit of the Enterprise, which was traveling at warp. They didn't make it very far because they have limited resources, but you would assume they didn't take off at full impulse power after a warp-powered ship. So it must have some sort of warp, and that's where discrepancies creep in Star Trek, especially in our research. It's sometimes they say it has warp, sometimes they just imply it has warp, and other times it obviously definitely doesn't.
Yeah, I didn't want to jump in and say, but sometimes the shuttle has warp. It's like it doesn't most of the time, but it kind of does, maybe, possibly sometimes, maybe.
Yeah. So that's a tough call. When I saw this go to warp, I thought that's cool. Let's just move along. I mean, and it's something I always assumed that they could possibly be able to do.
But it's such an impractical thing to not give them even warp 1. I mean, otherwise it's only in inter-solar system travel. Every other shuttle in Star Trek has warp, and they still take it, weeks, months, days, whatever, to ferry people from place to place. Even warp 6 or 4 is inefficient. So sublight is pointless. Unless it's, like I say, ship to ship, ship to not ship. Let's go back to the outside again. So very pointy, the back view, very, very, the back view is almost, interestingly enough, the back view is kind of like TNG plus Orville, because it's got that secondary circle. I know they've got a docking hatch thing, kind of has that sort of, or even more like the Target Universe shuttle, that's what I meant, because they've got a very distinct hatch at the back.
Well, it reminds me of the travel pods that we see in the motion picture. Same kind of docking ring with the clamps that come out and lock.
Well, that's really interesting, actually, because they do specifically have the docking circle on Discovery. So, combination shuttle pod actually makes sense, and it could dock with any Federation starship even easier. That actually makes more sense than not having it.
Yep. So it was a brilliant addition to put that on the back of a shuttle, have the docking ring and the ramp. It just makes perfect sense.
Okay, so this front view then we see it has glowing red facades, neat and small, a lot of glowing flashlight element things. Kind of, it's lousy with lights. I know this is obviously a dark bay, but it's like,
yeah,
it's not very stealthy craft, is it, in this configuration?
Well, again, not really mean to be stealthy, I don't think.
No.
Those are spotlights for exploring the inside of an asteroid or something like that. I mean, it makes sense.
But if you go to picture 5, which I didn't consider, if you look, it looks as if the back of the warp nacelles are impulse engines.
Yeah, I thought the same thing when it landed. Because really, there's nowhere else for warp or impulse except for that ring around the ship.
I assumed it was the ring. I mean, that'd be very nice. It'd be nice even thrust.
Yeah, it could be.
'Cause it's pretty
advanced.
With
the way they were powered on when it landed, though, I think it's probably some kind of impulse.
I mean, they could just be, when you have a warp drive, as it's so powerful that it has to have this exhaust, whatever. I mean, that's the equivalent of the warp grills, and they've just come out of warp. They've just landed, very short order. So those things have to cool down, therefore it goes less and less glowy. Because also when they landed, they're not on. Also, you don't need impulse there, but you don't need warp either. But the other drive, so that's the thing. What other purpose would the top light ring do then? Because it's blue in landing, but it's white in flight. So what would the rationale for that ring be?
Looks cool.
I'm trying to give them more credit than that.
It could also be, well, fine then, if you want to go that route. It could be sensors or some kind of whatever. It could be a backup alarm to back up and onto a shuttle docking ring. Could be like a force field almost even. So when you get close to the hull, it slows you down and then slowly pulls you into it grabs onto the hull and just pulls the shuttle a little bit, guides it. I don't know. Again, we can come up with many reasons why it's there, but I think it's probably the impulse engines, even though the back of the nacelles do look like they have some kind of impulse engine technology as well. Maybe a faster or slower impulse engine technology in the nacelles itself. Probably faster.
Well, that's quite a step ahead, though, to have impulse drives inside the nacelles. That's something we don't ever see because it's you need the nacelles for warp drive.
Wow.
So let's talk about the Delta for a second, because in the first view we can see not only does it have the Starfleet Command Delta insignia with a split, but also it has a TNG Delta.
Yeah.
I have a theory about that. What's your thoughts on having two different deltas and both being sort of inappropriate-ish? Sort of.
My thoughts on it are laziness, like the sound effects we saw in the first 2 episodes. They took sound effects from like every show and just threw them in. Like I said, a sound effect shotgun just shot it at the video. This is the same thing. That's something that people really recognize. It's something that's on the side of things in Star Trek. Let's put that on. Not much thought given to it. I don't know.
Because TMP has a different design, doesn't it? Even.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, not really, actually. I don't think I have one here.
Because we all know that the theory is that every Starfleet ship should have its own delta, but there was obviously the memo that just said no, that's wrong. Gene didn't intend for that. The costume department did it because they assumed that was a good idea. It wasn't meant to. That's why half of them do, half of them don't, which means both are canon, but they're not meant to. And if you look at then the Franklin, all the JJ stuff, which is at least they're trying to be a little bit continuity driven, a little bit with the Franklin, whatever. That's all. The Federation logo is the delta. So that's kind of. The canon is both ways, but now Discovery being this, it is the double canon, so no, this is not the Enterprise logo, it's just the logo. The fact they got the TNG logo, though, is wrong, unless, again, you say, because do you remember, Stuart, on the Franklin, Sean Hargraves put a temp logo on the nacelles, the TNG logo, expecting them to see it and take it off. Guess what? They didn't. So all the physical miniatures, all the CG has the wrong logo, and he knew it was, because he assumed they would see it, and take it off. And so
It is on there.
yeah, and so if you take that now, because that's now canon, as being the TNG logo was introduced at Pennons by the Franklin, which is a post-Federation launch ship,
Yes.
then you could argue that now, for the next 100 years, that's the logo, and then it's changed and then changed back. So Sean's mistake might have double made canon.
So your answer is it's Sean's fault.
Well, yeah.
We love you, Sean Hargraves.
We absolutely love you, Sean Hargraves, but and you know it was a mistake as well, but it wasn't your fault. I mean, it's clever if that. I mean, they obviously take visual cues from the Franklin in many places. You know, with corridors, with helm. You know, a lot of cue from the Franklin, which makes sense, sort of, continuity wise, timeline wise, but not in terms of JJ verse wrong licensing wise. But if they're trying to be clever, that would kind of be clever to have that pennon, because the first Federation one. It's the one. This is the first ship we see post Federation. But it also shouldn't be the one necessarily.
Well, let's finish talking about the shuttle for a second. Let's talk about the shuttle bay. That first shot that we see of it, I love seeing the activity in there. There's another shuttle on the left. There's one on the right. The one on the right is black and red, which is shuttle number 1 that they use later. The other one's more of a gray color. I don't know if it's a different style and different type of shuttle. It certainly looks like it. Even looks like it's got nacelles there that are lit up.
Yeah, it's true. I didn't notice back to picture 1 again. You're right. The actual Discovery shuttle is black, and I thought it was the lighting, but yeah. So that links another thing to Section 31, which is the theory with the comm badge and just the mentality on the ship, and having a black shuttle would refer back to the Vengeance and other such canonical Section 31 things, even if not in our universe.
Yeah. And if you zoom in on the shuttle on the left, it's different. There's also looks like there's another one tucked beside it with a red front, which is the same as the one on the left. But I love seeing the bay like that. I love seeing the landing markers on the ground, and the shapes we're all familiar with TNG as far as cargo goes. The little stackable things. It kind of looks very Imperial-like too.
Oh yeah,
from Star Wars, with the way those lights are shaped and rode up like that. It's like,
yeah.
Don't know, guys.
It looks to me as if though it's designed for 3 shuttles at a time with 3 bays that can then go down and well, there isn't that much space underneath. There isn't like decks and decks, but there's a deck presumably. But obviously that sets a certain scale, because the TOS obviously Connie has two side by side you can do, but one primarily is the it comes up. So it's 3, but obviously it is the entire length of that hull. But it certainly has a nice scale to it, and it's bigger than obviously the TNG shuttle bay. It's probably bigger than any of the shuttle bays we've seen, except the unseen Enterprise E shuttle bay, which would be pretty big. But certainly a lot of room for crew and cargo debarking and coming together, which I think is quite interesting. But that implies they're expecting to move cargo and to do things, because it's mostly dedicated to just space. Like, you could easily have 6 more lifts, in the space. Just kind of interesting it's not. And
then when we go into the interior a little bit, there's a few TOS callouts which I like. The 3 windows, basically above the door, is very similar to the windows you got at the end of the shuttle bay when you fly into the TOS one. And along the side as well, there's a bunch of windows that look like they have shutters closed right now. But I just watched Journey to Babel last night, and the remastered version has people standing in there watching the shuttles dock for the dignitaries. So nice visual callback, plus all the lights in the ceiling, all very similar structure-wise. So I think the shuttle bay overall as a whole really ties in with TOS.
Star Wars.
Happy. Yeah.
a TOS Star Wars combination.
Yes.
And kind of aircraft carrier. Like, it feels like a functional bay today almost.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It pushes that. But if you want to, like I say, go into the interior of the actual shuttle itself, jump back to that. And we did see this version in the trailer, and I said it's based on a propel jumper, just bigger. Now we get to see it properly. What was your thought when you saw this properly and fleshed out in the episode?
Well, I for one was very happy. I mean, I love seeing the emergency life support stuff in every seat. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Everybody has a survival unit. And if you look at the chairs at the front for the pilot and the co-pilot, they're also very thick. So I would assume there's like lockers in the back of those for weapons or life support as well. And I really enjoyed the interior of this ship. All the toggles and switches and physical buttons. Really a nice TOS tie-in.
Yes.
And the overall layout. It even has an astrogator, which this picture you can't see because it's just a little too low. And when they launch,
it's in picture 8, you can see quite happily.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yes. Well, there's a much better close-up of it when they're launching off the Glen. He actually puts his hand on it and moves something. So that astrogator tie-in is beautiful. I really appreciate that. That's a very much TOS callback. And so, yeah, I think the shuttle is great, to be honest. I can't wait to see more of them and see how they're laid out and configured differently. I'd like to see one configured much like the Galileo.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy with this one. So,
yeah, as a first shuttle, it's a good interior. It is very generic sci-fi, except the front bit, the front astrogator. But that's not a bad thing in and of itself, because, you know, as we've said before, the TOS verse, we only see one shuttle, one ship, one space station, which is not Starfleet. You know, it's Federation. So the breadth of the potential era is huge. You know, so obviously different. I mean, even in the animated series, we see different alternate shuttle types, which do not look like the TOS shuttle, except the engines. You know, so the breadth should be there. So this does feel like this would work perfectly as a prison cargo transport, except with like more locks. But I do like the fact that as an aft airlock. Awesome. Should do. Good shout. Although those doors are very JJ. And yeah, obviously the front console is a standout because it's you know, all the different circle displays, very like the TOS, all the physical knobs and buttons, and yet just a practical touch display as well. So it's that's definitely the standout bit. But yeah, it's a good shuttle design, and I think the exterior is better than the interior. There's more Star Trek to that.
Yeah.
And I will say that they did design an alternate shuttle pod for, again, the Franklin. So, you know, if they looked at the Franklin as inspiration, they might have said, "Hey guys, let's see the clear version of that 3D model, and then influence from that," because there's only 70 years, you know. But that would have had higher technology than a shuttle pod anyway. So yeah. So closing thoughts, Stuart. Any what was your favourite or least favourite this far on as well? Like I said, the exterior is my favourite.
Yeah, I would say overall the view from the back exterior is my favorite. That one shot of it landing on the Glen is beautiful. Seeing the airlock, and it has the right proportions that way. And I love the black with the red markings. When you look at it from the top, it's a little bit long for my liking.
Yep.
But so yeah, that'd be my least favorite, is the length when viewed from the top. But overall, I think my favorite thing about it is just the general 3/4 rear view, the airlock. That's a great idea. Both airlock and ramp, so it's multi-purpose.
Yeah.
So that'd be mine.
And I think the fact that the Star Trek V shuttle, carries on that design, then evolves into TNG. The fact that shuttle is in use, that design for, like 70 years, implies that's probably quite a common shuttle design. So it kind of makes sense to have. I mean, again, if this was 10 years after Kirk, or in between, motion picture and whatever, this would be again a bit too advanced. But stylistically, you could sort of make it make sense. But yeah, the back view is very familiar, just bigger. And I kind of like the scale of this thing. It's very I think it fits with this ship. But yeah, it needs a little bit less pointy.
Yeah. So I guess that's it, guys. That's our look at the shuttle from Discovery. Oh, the one we've seen so far. I'm sure there are more.
I bet there are.
And I'm looking forward to seeing more. But what do you guys think about it? Do you like it? Do you like the fact it's black? Why do you think it's black? Do you think it's Section 31? Just special ops?
That's the only time we've seen a black ship. So... Yeah.
And you can't say it's just that shuttle design that's black, because the exact same one is sitting beside it and it's gray. And that's from the prison transport. So anyway, guys, looking forward to your comments below. Please click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you want to get notified every time we upload, you can click the bell notification icon, and then you'll get a little notification that, hey, there's a new video, guys, something for you to watch. And we look forward to entertaining you guys that way. So
and if you want to support us directly, there are a couple of great ways. Either just sharing the show any way you think people will enjoy it, supporting us on Patreon, which is a monthly donation scheme. You give a little bit each and every month, and if enough of you give, 10 of you give $5, $50, mounts up, throughout the year. It really does help this show. A one-time donation at trekyards.com. Click that donate button and give a little bit of money, because money does make the world go round, and we just want to keep making cool content for you guys. But all the bills have got to be covered, all production costs too. So if you can help, please do, and thank you in advance.
That's right. So until next time, guys, I'm Captain Foley.
And I am Commander Kongs.
Bye.
Bye, guys.